Okay, so I'm sure you'll all agree that while poverty is a huge problem for South Africans, our people are ingenious when it comes to making a little go a long way, right? So, for example, if a South African wants a wheelchair, right? And they can't afford a wheelchair, but they've got the frame of a wheelchair and then they've got a plastic garden chair. They don't say, well, let me make money to buy a new wheelchair or get this one fixed. They just take the plastic garden chair, they stick it on the frame, they put some screws in, and then they've got something that they can use, right? So I think I was aware of this kind of entrepreneurial mindset of getting things done with constrained resources when I was in high school, when I was growing up in Johannesburg. But I never really did anything with that knowledge or that awareness. And then like Eke said, I was lucky I got to go to Harvard, I got to go to Oxford. I worked at Credit Suisse, I studied economics. I worked at Credit Suisse, I got a master's in financial economics. And the thing when you go to a place like Harvard or a place like Oxford, right? When I went there, I was really intimidated. I thought, geez, I can never be like these people. Look at the kind of people who go to these institutions. I don't know if South Africa can ever do anything like that. These people are just superhuman, right? But then you go there and you see, you get a bit more confident, a bit more comfortable, and you realize these people are not really superhuman. I mean, they're incredible, they're talented, right? But the formula is pretty simple for how you produce people like these. You take naturally talented people, you pour world-class resources into them, and almost inevitably, you're going to end up with a lot of really world-class entrepreneurs, scientists, leaders. So I got into this idea of talent and thinking about talent and whether South Africa was efficient in using our talent in the same way that, let's say, the UK or America uses their talent. And particularly I was interested in entrepreneurship because I thought about business as probably the most sustainable way, I think, of solving a lot of South Africa and Africa's social problems. And I thought, well, do we use our entrepreneurial talent efficiently? And in a place like Stellenbosch or a place like Wits, a place like UCT, yeah, definitely we do, right? We produce world-class business people in South Africa. But there's one group of people that I think we don't pay any attention to when it comes to talent. We don't even consider that there's talent there. And that's the poorest, that group is the poorest group of people in South Africa. In fact, if you think about poor people in South Africa, sorry about that. If you think about poor people in South Africa, the story is always framed in terms of a problem, right? You talk about people who, you talk about crime, you talk about a lack of skills, you talk about HIV/AIDS. But there's 5 million unemployed people in this country. Okay, 5 million. There's 5 million, another 5 million who are in minimum wage jobs. So we're talking 10 million people in a country of 48 million who we're just saying there's no talent. Can that really be true? So maybe if you're cynical, you say, okay, there was a fair system, you had these 10 million people, they had a chance, they blew it, and that's why they're at the bottom rung of the economic ladder, right? But we know that's not true in South Africa. Everyone knows that's not true. You know that historically we've got an apartheid system which definitely didn't give people a fair chance, but even now, we're struggling to give people a fair chance. I mean, if this is a classroom in Johannesburg probably a year ago, and if I was in this classroom when I was 8, 10 years old, and I thought that, okay, even if I stick with this for the next 10 years, and then I get a matric degree, I probably won't get a job, but I've got a family that I need to look after. I don't know, I probably wouldn't be standing here with a whole bunch of degrees talking to you guys in a speech. I'd probably be part of that 10 million, right? Just making things happen for your family. So when I thought about that, I became entirely convinced that there must be, you have 10 million people, right? You've got, they're in a certain position, not for lack of ability, but for lack of opportunity. And just because of those numbers, there have to be some exquisitely talented people who just need to be given an opportunity. And that's especially true when it comes to entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship's not like the sciences, it's not like engineering. You don't need your 12 years and then your postgraduate and then a good job. It's a lived experience, right? It's the thing, you need to be a leader, you need to be able to think, you need to be able to work hard. You need to be able to come up with ideas and hustle, basically. And that you can do, people are doing that whether you're in a township or whether you're in a suburb. There's no difference. And so I was convinced. And so I came home and I thought, okay, let's see what's happening with entrepreneurship in South Africa. And I found that this is Everyone believes entrepreneurship is the way to stimulate our economy. We need to create entrepreneurs who can create jobs and drive growth, right? And if you've got a business in South Africa, there's amazing resources available to you. There's great organizations, government gives money, there's everything. But if you don't have a business, then you're not considered an entrepreneur. And in South Africa, that's problematic because only 5.7% of South Africans are actually involved in entrepreneurship. It's one of the lowest rates in the world. So maybe you say, okay, but if you start a business, you're an entrepreneur, and therefore, these people, these 95% or so, they're not entrepreneurs. But I don't think that's true in South Africa. I mean, the same logic holds as for the schools. You've got to choose between a risky business or going and get a job where you can actually get an income and support your family. Most South Africans are supporting about 8 people. You choose that, right? Or where you're going to even get money to start a business, let alone making that choice. So I didn't think that was a good measure of entrepreneurship. So what I really wanted to do was to create a model that could focus on that 95% and see if we couldn't find a way to find the brilliant entrepreneurs in that group. And so I got together with my business partner and my co-founder of this Awethu Project is my company. His name's Ryan Pachter. He went to Harvard with me. We were high school friends. He went to become a corporate lawyer. He went to Columbia Law School, and he came back to do this with me. And we said, okay, let's find a way that we can find brilliant entrepreneurs. And so what filter do you use? Okay, we can't use whether you started a business, right? You can't use that. So can you use ideas? I don't think that's a good filter either, because ideas, as TED shows, ideas are limited by experience, and the more you're exposed, the more you think, and the more you're going to come up with new ideas, right? So if you've only seen a spazza shop or a taxi company or a funeral parlor, you'll probably want to start a spazza shop or a taxi company or a funeral parlor. So that's not a good filter. So eventually we just said, you know what? Let's just come up with our own set of criteria based on the literature on what makes a great entrepreneur, and let's use our own ideas, and let's go into these communities and say, you come and apply. We don't care if you ever had a job. We don't care if you have a matric. We don't care if you've ever started a business or you have an idea. Just apply with people in your demographic who've had the same experience as you. And if you prove yourself to be more entrepreneurial than all of those people, then we're going to invest the exact same resources in you as people at Harvard and people at Oxford get. And we're going to do that in a real-world business school. We're going to match you with a business idea. We're going to train you. And after 3 years, we want you to be as good of an entrepreneur, or on the path to being as good of an entrepreneur as anyone in the world. Okay? And then you can go into your communities and you can make change in your communities. And so that's our model. And it's a for-profit model, importantly. We business people as well. We didn't want to come back and start a charity. And so we started in Alex. Alex Township is on the outskirts of, it's one of the poorest areas in Johannesburg. Huge problems with crime, huge problems with unemployment, huge problems with poverty. And we went in and we went on the radio. We handed out application forms. We handed out flyers. We got community reps in there. We sometimes lost credibility because we showed up with my mom's beach umbrellas and handwritten signs. But it's okay, we got over that. And we built some kind of a reputation in Alex to the extent that 1,000 people applied in the first round of our talent identification process. And over the next 8 weeks, we put them through about 20 different tests, the best of them through about 20 different tests of entrepreneurial potential. And at the end of that time, out of 1,000, we selected our first 3 Awethu entrepreneurs. So that process happened in March, and we selected these entrepreneurs a couple of months ago.
Last job I did. And so
Doing what?
I was a baggage handler there. And so, yeah, before that.
That's crazy. Baggage handler.
Yeah.
I can imagine that you were getting bored of that job.
I was very bored. But then the good part that came out of that job is that actually regained my interest in reading, because nowadays you have a lot of spare time. So actually.
The thing is that, like, to be quite honest with you, I'm a very bright person. Like, I'm a bright person, like, naturally. Like, I'm one of those kids, like, they were even getting promoted in schools. I used to chop books, get 90%. I once got 100% for my biology. I used to always get 100% for my maths. You know what I mean? So I used to be, like, super bright at school. And I got, like, some distinctions. As soon as I left school,
I wanted a job. I definitely wanted to school. I just scraped through. I don't think I had the confidence in myself I didn't believe in myself enough to work harder and excel. And now, over the past year especially, I've been getting distinctions in economics, getting high marks for the other subjects that I've been doing. And comparatively speaking, I've grown a lot. I am hungry for this. I believe I can do it. I believe with guidance I can do it. That's saying to get extraordinary results, to get extraordinary things. And I firmly believe in that.
So I heard some of you, I heard some of the sort of exclamations when the first IQ score was shown, right? And I think it's important. The reason we focus on IQ scores there is because it's not easy to convince people that amongst the poorest, most disadvantaged people in South Africa, there's world-class talent, right? If people believed that, they'd all be in the townships looking for it. So what we wanted to do was show people the most objective measure of ability, of potential. That score it's not even normed against a South African norm group, it's normed against an American norm group. That is pure objective measure of cognitive ability. These guys are top 3% in the world, and they're all sitting in townships, either in subsistence businesses or unemployed, right? But that's not to say that we didn't put them through many, many other tests of entrepreneurial potential, debates, teamwork exercises, business simulations, anything we could think of that we thought was important to being an excellent entrepreneur or to eventually becoming one. So now these guys are in our office, and the model is actually working. So they've been in the office for the last 2 months. They've been matched with a business opportunity. We've set up a fellowship where we get top financial services professionals from abroad who come and work for 6 months, one-on-one with them, help them to set up their business. We've got an investment fund that we invest in their businesses. We've got mentorships with local firms to give them local expertise, top law firms, audit firms, consultants, marketing people, all working with these guys. And these are the businesses they've set up. So Chris has started Straight to Your Door, the first ever door-to-door delivery service in Alexandria. Ayanda, who's actually here tonight, has started U-Control, and he's been fast-tracked as a seller of Apple and PC products, and he's identified a new way of selling to students in Johannesburg that no one else is doing. And Mark has started Joe Burrito, the first ever Mexican fast food franchise in Johannesburg, and he's already got a stall which is making money over the last 4 weeks at the Rosebank Market. So it's amazing. And the thing that I think is particularly amazing is that we sit with these guys every day, and I have no reason to doubt the claim that they can be, if not better, as good if not better than my classmates at Harvard and Oxford. I honestly believe that. And so what does this mean for the Awethu Project? So that's on a micro level. On a macro level, what does this mean for us? We're going ahead with our pilot project, okay? Our goal in the next 2 years is to find 20 people like Mark, Ayanda, and Chris. We've done our second round of testing. We're in Kwatema, Soweto, and Tembisa. The initial cognitive results are as extraordinary as the first. In fact, as Chris said, there's a new sheriff in town because there's a guy who's actually in the top 1%, and he's running a local taxi in KwaDuduza. And we're moving forward with our project. And our goal is to make this a replicable model. So we want this, after 2 years, to be something that you can take from Johannesburg, put it in Cape Town, put it in Durban, put it in PE, put it in other African countries. Anywhere where this demographic exists, we hope that this can work. And our goal is that we can basically create world-class entrepreneurs from disadvantaged backgrounds. And we don't just use that term world-class lightly, okay? We've actually quantified it. So graduates of Harvard Business School make the most money of any graduates of any business school in the world, okay? They make 20 million rand over a 20-year career. Our goal is for our entrepreneurs to make that same amount of money in the same amount of time to justify their claims to being world-class. We want no excuses with our entrepreneurs. So the question that we get asked a lot, myself and Ryan, is why did you choose to do this? Okay, I come back home and people say, why don't you stay in London or America? You could have made so much money at Credit Suisse. Or Ryan, you were working at that good law firm. Look how much money you're making, and now you're living at home with your mom. Come on, man. Why would you do that? And our friends say, our friends in America say, why do you want to go back to that backward place? Stay here in New York. This is where it's happening. And I think that the best answer to that came from Chris Pinner, one of our entrepreneurs, who he was giving a speech on why he would make a great entrepreneur in the selection process, right? And he said, people tell me that I come from a previously disadvantaged background, but the entrepreneur in me would like to disagree. I come from a previously unexplored market, not a previously disadvantaged background. So now Chris was talking about Alex when he was talking there, right? But he might just as well have been talking about South Africa or Africa. This is the last unexplored market. People are learning Chinese now, they've basically missed the boat. This is the last place people are going to have to look. There's nowhere else for investors to go for excess returns. They're going to come here. And this is the place, forget London and forget New York, this is the place where Ryan and I have our competitive advantage. There's nowhere else in the world that I can have the opportunity to make as much money and do as much good as I can here. And this is not just me this is not like some patriotic rah-rah, right? This is just a fact that investors all over the world are now awake to. You just open the newspaper every day, open the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, the Chinese are here, the Russians are here, everyone knows. McKinsey, the world's leading strategy consulting company, last month had a report on Africa, a glowing report on Africa. And look at that fact. Return on foreign investment in Africa is higher than in any other developing region. It's just a fact. Just like those IQ scores, there's nothing to debate. So, in closing, you see, I knew I would forget something during the speech, and I've forgotten my closing, but I think my closing is this, that I'm excited as the world looks, I'm convinced of this opportunity, and I think that what's really exciting to me, I don't know if Awethu is going to work, we're still trying it out, but the exciting part to me is the process. I love working with these guys. I love figuring out how together we can tap this incredible potential that Africa has. And I'm really looking forward in the next 20, 30, 40 years to working with these entrepreneurs, to working with Ryan, to working with people like yourself, to further figure out that question, how do we tap our potential, and to growing and shaping Africa's future together. Thank you very much. Okay.